Very good evening to all of you. My compliments to Arpan for taking this mantle and organizing this week-long event to sensitize people about a very, very crucial issue. I recall when I took over as Secretary of School Education, I must confess that I was not aware of this problem at all. And that's the basic problem. Lack of awareness about existence of such a problem. And I am thankful to Aditi in person and Arpan in particular, that when she met me, she tried to explain a few things to me. But I really got convinced when I did visit the Arpan office much later. And I'm glad that someone from Radhakrishnan International School is here, because that's where I got my real learning. I sat in a class where a session was on for children. I think they were about 10, 11 years, and they were being taught about understanding of sexual abuse. I was pleasantly shocked to see how easily it was being conveyed by the person who was talking. I had suggested to Arpan at that point in time, why don't we record this and communicate to others? But I'm sure there must be many, many more people who are doing this job. But I think the first thing that needs to happen in this is to first accept the existence of this problem. The real problem is that we sometimes try to push such problems under the carpet and think that they don't exist. So without accepting existence of a problem, I don't think a problem can ever be solved. So that's the first step, to acknowledge the existence of such a problem, though it may not be really visible for very good reasons, because children are of that age that they are not as communicative on an issue which is virtually a social taboo. They would not want to discuss it with anybody. So we have to sensitize them to understand the real problem. But before we do that, I said, accept the existence of that problem. And next step, of course, is instead of trying to handle the problem per se, if you sensitize the children, it's the preventive mode. And that's what I liked when I visited that school, because I remember every word spoken in that class with regard to what should be done, what should not be done, how to perceive a touch. I must confess, I was totally not aware of this aspect of human existence or child existence and the trauma that the child goes through. And this needs to be conveyed. I'm so glad that Arpan is doing what it is doing. I've myself written about it, I've spoken about it, but I think Arpan can only pivot it. Everyone needs to join hands. And I'm so glad that so many people have joined today. Each one of them would already know that this problem exists. I think they don't need to sensitize. They have to become the torchbearers thereafter. They will have to go out and reach out to as many people as possible, first to make them understand about the existence of a problem, and then through the tools that have been developed by institutions like Arpan, use those tools to sensitize children. And more than that, I'm glad there are some parents also today in this webinar. The parents have to accept this. Parents have to be sensitized as much. I don't know how that is being done right now, because children, of course, they come to the school, you can put through a classroom and tell them. But how do you sensitize parents? Because until the parents are sensitized, they will then be the next persons to push it under the carpet. If my understanding of the problem is correct, most of the child abuse comes through people who are known, who are close relatives. If that be the case, then the role of parents becomes even more important. Because the normal psychology of a child would be, should I go and complain against a relative to somebody? And until the child feels comfortable in communicating with the parents, he will never do it. So that barrier that exists between the child and the parent has somehow to be broken. And in this, the initiative cannot be taken by the child. Child can be sensitized, all right, but the barrier has to be broken by the parent. They should be receptive to such a conversation. In fact, I would suggest that conversation should be initiated by the parent himself, so that the child feels that he can communicate with the parents. So, there are laws relating to child abuse, as there are laws in many other cases, but laws normally don't solve all the problems. Laws come into being when a crime has actually, or when an event has happened. The best effort is to see how it can be prevented. So here, I think the stakeholders like the child, of course, he's the principal player there. He has to be sensitized. Of course, the teachers and the principals, they have to be sensitized. They have to understand the importance of it, because it's not a part of the curriculum, so to say. People will say, because we are so obsessed with the marks that we get in the class, we push this under the carpet. Why waste time on this? Because it won't impact the numbers that you get finally in the exam. I can tell them very clearly now that I've understood the subject, it does impact the numbers. If a child is not psychologically settled Do you think he'll be able to learn and give out and appear in the examination? A psychologically hurt child will be much worse off. So my advice to parents is, please don't look at it from the point of view of pure marks. Even they will get impacted if the child is not felt secure. This is true of adults also. If there is a sense of insecurity, the performance gets impacted. So is the case with a child. So hence it is, to my mind, is extremely, extremely important for the child to be sensitized, for the parents to be sensitized. Of course, the principals and the teachers have to play an important role. And finally, I think we have to go beyond the school. I think it has to become a social conversation. If it doesn't become a social conversation, it will still be a taboo to be discussed. The moment you start discussing it openly, I think the child will become very forthright, and he'll come automatically and speak about it. Because it's not merely a taboo in the family. Some of it can be done away with through conversation. But if it socially ceases to be a taboo, then it will be discussed. And my understanding of all crimes, not only this, of all wrongs, in fact, is if you bring about some sort of a psychological transparency in it, the problem gets by and large sorted out. It is when you push anything under the carpet in any domain that it comes out in a much worse form subsequently. So my suggestion to all of you, I am nobody to guide you. You are already converted, as it were. But my suggestion to you would be, you have to take this task forward to many, many more people. It has to become a national movement in the sense of everyone trying to understand this problem, because we are still not very clear what is the extent of the problem. In the surveys and all, everyone doesn't come out openly because of the social taboo that we have. The real extent will come out if everyone opens up. And if everyone opens up, I'm sure, and I saw it in the government also, the moment one brought in transparency, much of the corruption went down. It's the opacity that brings it all the wrongs and the corruption. So throw it open, discuss it, let it not be a taboo. I convey all the best to you. I would have loved to continue because this is very close to my heart, but unfortunately I have to go for an emergent meeting. I would have loved to come here. All the best to you, and you have brilliant people. I mean, I'm a great admirer of Swati ji. I'm a great admirer. I just heard about Manisha ji. They are the people who've actually done things. I'm a person who only talks. I haven't done much of walking this. These are people who've walked this, who've done this, will carry much more conviction when they speak. I'm just a speaker. Thank you very much for inviting me here. It was